Hi, fourth grade. Happy Thursday. It's Mrs. Price, and I am back with your Thursday worksheet on metaphors. And I thought I would revisit this anchor chart that I made you, talking about figurative language and specifically metaphors. Remember, figurative language is when words go beyond their literal meaning. And what that means is when something is literal, it's as is, right? The blanket is blue. That's literal. There's nothing imaginary about that. It's a fact. It is what it is. But if I were to say, gosh, the blanket is as blue as the ocean, that's figurative language. It went beyond its literal meaning. Yes, it still means it's blue, right? But now I'm comparing it to the beautiful blue ocean. And I used a simile. I don't know if you noticed. But yeah, remember, figurative language is it's poetry. It's a fun way to express what we're trying to say. It creates such a great picture in our minds. It's just a fun play on language. And we talked about similes, and similes and metaphors are so much alike. Really, the only difference, they're both a comparison of two things. But a simile uses like or as, and a metaphor does not. And a metaphor is really comparing two things directly. And I love this. We talked about this the other day. She is a ray of sunshine. We're comparing this girl to a ray of sunshine. Now, it has a real term and it has an imaginary term. We know somebody can't be a ray of sunshine, right? But we know that a ray of sunshine is bright and happy and colorful. And so apparently what that's saying is that this girl is just happy, right? And just probably glows with happiness and positivity and joy is how I would interpret that. You might interpret it a different way though. And that's the beauty of figurative language is that, and poetry really is that it's like art. We interpret it in a different way, which is completely okay. And then I don't think we need to really dive into this, but it just kind of zoomed in on metaphors, talking about the messy room and the room is a pigsty. And remember, we're just not using like or as when we use metaphors. Okay, so today we have a fun activity. I'm going to go down to my next slide. Your activity today is an actual poem. And they want you to read the poem, and as you read, complete the following activity that will help you understand it. Now, it's all about a nightingale. Now, a nightingale is a type of bird, and I kind of think before you read it and try to interpret this, you need to understand what a nightingale sounds like, right? So what I've done is I have, on your anchor chart, I actually stole this video from YouTube, and I want us just to take a few minutes and we're going to listen to this nightingale. Now, if you want to search this on YouTube, just search nightingales, their sounds or their songs, and listen to it for a minute. Okay, so we're going to do that. So I want you just to listen very carefully. Interesting sounds. I'm hearing a lot of repetition. Makes a lot of different, very unique sounds. It sings. And it makes clicking noises. And I'm hearing like a pattern being repeated. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. If you want to listen further, then I would really encourage you. I just got that video off of YouTube. I would encourage you just to listen to it. It's such a unique little bird that makes very interesting sounds. So now that we have a little bit of, we have some schema now, don't we? Now we know what a nightingale sounds like. And you want to make sure that, you understand what it sounds like before you try to interpret, because trying to interpret this poem might be a little bit difficult if you don't have that knowledge. Okay, but now that we've heard the nightingale, let's read the poem together. It's a harp. It's a poem. It's a violin. It's a symphony. It's sheer splendor. It's pure joy. It's tenderness. It's love. It's the sweet nightingale. Okay, so you can see why this is a metaphor, right? Because we're making a direct comparison of this nightingale to several different things in the poem. But I don't see like or as, so that's what makes it a metaphor. Okay, so I went ahead and got started. Now, again, I'm going to encourage you, just like we did with the nightingale video, to look up a harp on YouTube and listen to what that sounds like. A harp has a beautiful sound. It's very unique, and it's different than a violin. Look up a symphony. Listen to what a symphony sounds like. Mrs. Price would play different symphonic music in the classroom, and some of you liked it and some of you didn't care for it, but I would encourage you to listen to it and see what it sounds like. If you don't know what sheer splendor is, I would encourage you to look that up in your student dictionary. And you probably know what pure joy is. What about tenderness? Do you know what that means? If not, look it up in your student dictionary or look it up on Google. I know you know what love is. But this is a great opportunity for you to use those student dictionaries. Or like I said, you can look it up on YouTube, listen to these different things that it's being compared to, and get have your own opinions of what the author is trying to say. I'm going to get you started with the first two comparisons. So the first one says the author compares the nightingale with a harp because, well, in my opinion, now this is my interpretation, right? Your interpretation might be different. I think the harp makes a beautiful sound. And so my interpretation is the author compares the nightingale with a harp because the nightingale makes beautiful sounds. Now, you may think something different about the harp. So you can write your comparison. You don't have to write mine. Okay, and then the second thing that it compares it to is a poem. Okay, now let's think about poetry. Now, there are so many different types of poems. But when I listened to this little nightingale right here, what I heard that reminded me of a poem was a pattern over and over. Like it had 3 different little sounds, and then it repeated those sounds. So it's almost like poetry in that way. So I might say the author compares the nightingale with a poem because it makes or you could even say maybe not the, but it makes different sounds, or you could say several different sounds that are repeated. And I can think of some different poems that I've read where lines are repeated, or maybe a word is repeated over and over. There's repetition in poetry, right? And so to me, that was the first thing that came to my mind when listening to that little nightingale. It sounded like he had 3 little sounds that he made, and then he made them again, and then he made them again, which is so interesting. I don't know what makes the nightingale do that, but it does. It sounds like poetry. But again, that is my interpretation of this right here. you may come up with something different. So I am excited to see what you guys come up with. I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. Remember, use your student dictionaries, use YouTube to look it up, listen to all of these sounds, and make your own interpretations. But most of all, enjoy this, have fun with it. Poetry is supposed to be enjoyable and fun. So I hope you have fun. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye-bye.